Hi, everybody. For this new episode of A Guy with a Scarf, summer edition, as you can see, I'm happy to have with me Dani Markovits, who's someone that knows a lot about LinkedIn, but I let Dani introduce himself first.
Thank you, Carlo. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. And before sharing a bit about me, I have to say, and I think I told you this, I think a guy with a scarf is probably the coolest name I've heard.
Ah,
So kudos on that, and I think it suits you perfectly. But yeah, I'm Dani.
thank
Thanks
you.
for the introduction. I'm the CCO of Shea Content. We'll speak about it as well. But I'm from Ecuador. Quick context: I woke up today to watch the game. Today is
No,
Wednesday. We lost, so I could be happier, but I can't complain. Um, and yeah, I've been working, I would say, in media, in the intersection of media, creators, and sports for quite some time. I started my career back at a media company called Minute Media. We can speak about that another day. And then I joined LinkedIn here in London, which was an exciting time, mostly because it was a completely new thing, a completely new world for LinkedIn, which was the whole creator
yeah.
community ecosystem. So I was lucky enough to be one of the first ones to build and start the foundations of that. So that was
What year was that? What year was that?
I was on 2021.
Okay.
And I was a creator manager. I didn't even know what that meant. When it comes to LinkedIn, I also think LinkedIn didn't know either. And I stayed there for 4 years. I know we're going to speak a bit about that. And for the last few months, I joined Shea Content, which is a LinkedIn agency. We specialize on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is still a big part of my life, maybe a bit too much, but you know me, I'm a big believer of the platform, and it's been good to see the evolution of LinkedIn.
Yeah. And so, if you have to define LinkedIn, the evolution of LinkedIn, it became obviously a place where everybody just went to find a new job to whatever we can define it, a media platform. It's to be
It's
apart
hard.
from what I create content for, but I use it as one of the main source of news for certain areas. Unfortunately, I have multidimensional interest in many areas, so one platform doesn't fit all of them. But LinkedIn for anything business is where I get most of the news, to be honest. Apart from interacting with people, blah 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 blah. How you see it today?
Yeah, that's
You
a good.
want forget wait for the new stuff that just let's post
Yeah,
it for later.
we can pause that. But I think I was thinking about it. What does LinkedIn is at the moment? And I think you're right. It's hard to define it, but I think something is clear, which is that the platform changed tremendously. Um 5, 10 years ago, people were only using LinkedIn, or 99% of the people were only opening the platform when they were looking for a job, or
Mm.
when they were they wanted to find someone for a
Yeah,
job. So
exactly.
it was very specific for a purpose. And slowly, and a big part of that was my team, I have to say that, LinkedIn changed. And now I see people using LinkedIn in the subway, in the bus, my wife using it like it's TikTok. So the whole ecosystem changed. Now people are using LinkedIn even when you're not looking for a job. And I think how I see it is it became a mix of a social platform, a mix of a job platform, but most importantly, I think is where professional conversations are happening,
Yeah.
and where professionals are connecting and finding opportunities. At the end of the day, that's what LinkedIn is for.
Yeah, absolutely. I have. I don't bore you with that, but in my previous career, long career, through the years, a lot of huge, what developed to be huge project, multi-million project, often started, and I have still saved three conversation with the people that I knew and came back and say, "Hey, Carlo, we're doing this. Can you want to come and see?" So for me, it was. I've never been a sales guy. I mean, properly, but obviously I did a lot of business development on top of product and technology. And very often, a lot of that started on LinkedIn, even from people, because it's the easier way. I don't remember your email. I don't have you on WhatsApp, maybe. So I go there and say, oh, I should ask Dani or should ask Carlos. So it's a small thing, but it can be a big thing.
If you haven't,
Yes.
you definitely should share those screenshots as posts.
Ah,
That's a great recipe for a good story. Yeah, last thing on that point, um, what I think is different from platforms like Instagram, it's the intention. I think that's an important word. People are already with the intention of connecting, of networking,
Mm.
of discussing some sort of partnership. So DMs on LinkedIn work quite well because of that. One, because there's the whole trust component, which is quite
Mhm.
unique to LinkedIn. But second, because yeah, you're in that mindset. Versus if I send you a message on Instagram, you're not on that mindset, right? You don't want to talk to, I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to talk about business. I just want to consume my MBA content, for example.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of LinkedIn. People are there to, with that mindset to do stuff. So DMs work for that purpose as well.
And specifically on that, what is your opinion on the fact that sometimes some people go on a tangent or go a bit of outside of the business conversation? I don't have, normally I don't care and I don't like it too much, but um, is it okay if there are other areas of conversation, or you think this dilutes a bit the value and the trust? I've seen a lot of people complaining, but people like to complain for everything. So I don't know.
That should be the summary of the video. I agree. People like to complain about everything. But my view on that, and I think it's always changing, but it's kind of like a not a hot take, but I think you have to earn your right to speak about something else. Meaning,
Mm,
and I agree, we're people, we're multifaceted, we have different,
absolutely. Yeah.
and that, I think that's fine. That's part of being a professional as well. So, but my point, not to confuse the audience here, is my core expertise is LinkedIn. My core expertise, what I like to talk is about B2B marketing, about creators. So that's my main uh, insight on the platform, and I think that should remain the case. But if every once in a while I talk about football, I talk about some funny memes, of course connected to my world. If I talk about my daughter, sometimes I think that's fine. That's me. But if you only do that, if you only share memes, if you only talk about music or about food, I don't think that's a recipe for success. I think people will be annoyed at that. But if you complement your presence, your expertise with your personality, with your little,
It's like a human touch.
that I think that's not only okay, but I think that's recommended, and I like that. I want to know Carlo what he like more as a person, because I've seen your expertise. I trust you as a professional, so that just gives you more flavor.
Mm,
As
mm,
an
mm, mm,
Italian
mm.
and Latins, we connect with that. So that's my view on the personality, on the personal side of LinkedIn.
And in terms of LinkedIn as sport, because again, the 5, 10 years ago, I mean, yeah, obviously there were professional job that would also be on LinkedIn, etc. On the business side of the sport, the behind the scene, what I've been doing all my life. But I think I did recently something for like an analysis platform from YouTube, but I also at some point put the other social platform in. And LinkedIn, every clubs in the top 5 leagues have a LinkedIn account. Don't know what they're doing with it for the moment, but
But they have
so
it.
but start from there. I mean, what? And I know you had something specific on sport in LinkedIn lately too. So, what's your view for how sports should use LinkedIn, and what is the place for sport entities on LinkedIn?
Yeah, so much to unpack there. Quick story. I remember when I was at LinkedIn, it was not my official um, role, but as a sports fan, I always wanted to do more with sports on LinkedIn. And at the beginning, I remember both internally on LinkedIn trying to bring this up, and people were like not very convinced that sports was a
Mm,
native fit for the platform. But also externally, there was barely any athletes on the platform. There were only a few names. And I remember texting and trying to bring athletes, and they were like, no, like, I don't understand LinkedIn. It's not for me. It's for boring people. So it was hard. But I think slowly the narrative started to change, both internally and externally. So first, when it comes to sports personalities, I think LinkedIn is becoming a unique platform and a much more important platform. Why? I think it's a few factors, but mostly because sports figures, especially nowadays, as we said before, they're also multifaceted, right? They are
absolutely.
not only great athletes, but they're also they want to be entrepreneurs, they want to invest, they want to be part of boards, they want to promote their charities, they want to speak about other things than their jobs, same like us. So LinkedIn is the only platform that not only they are allowed to do that, but that the audience wants to hear from them. So the way I see it, it's the platform where they want to, you can speak about everything that's happening outside the pitch, and they like that, they want that. They also don't want to be known only as the tennis guy or as the football lady. They want to know as much more than that, and they're super smart people as well. So that's a big shift, and something that's been very cool, having spoken to many of them. It's the only platform where they're really much more in the weeds. You know, famous people, they have their agencies, they have people supporting them.
Yeah,
And I don't
absolutely.
think in Instagram they're too aware of the comments or the messages. There's too much
No, they
noise.
cannot. I think they cannot.
They cannot. Whereas on LinkedIn, I have experience that they are much more on it. They're owning that experience much more, because they understand the quality of the people is different, the quality of the conversations are different. You're getting in front of the decision makers, and it's much more positive as well. So that's one side of things.
And one thing to confirm on that, sorry, I tracking YouTube clubs. I also track some players. It's amazing. Your Ronaldo channel, billions. I mean, nobody is not posting anything, and it's all fandom and no content, nothing. So on that side. On the other side, I was in a bar in Torino working on whatever with my laptop, and in front of me, a guy that I knew and Alex Del Piero sit just in front of me on the table.
Wow.
And basically, they spent. I tried not. I said try not to listen too much, but basically, by the way, Alex Del Piero in amazing shape, unlike a lot of others. And they were talking about family and business and investments and cinema. I think zero football. Not because he doesn't like it anymore. He was in Parma for Festival della Serie A and did amazing 2-3 hours on stage. So, but that's true. I mean, football players have a lot of different angles.
And a second, I would say, tailwind or effect to complement that is how sports became much more than sports in the business world as well. And I'm not an expert on that part specifically, but you know as well how sports as a business asset or as a
absolutely
as something that is much more protected nowadays of AI. Just there's so much thing around sports that companies, platforms, brands wanna get attached to sports as well. So yeah, it's becoming one of the most important, I would say, ecosystems in the business sphere. So there's so much more to be done on LinkedIn through clubs, through organizations, through sports technology. And I think this is just happening. I still think it's early, but you can feel it. The amount of quality conversations and quality insights on the platform. Whereas 4 years ago, you would struggle to find intelligent takes or insights on the industry.
Yeah, and one thing that's you were mentioning, the resistance of people to come on the platform, etc. Normally, when I meet someone or I notice someone and I go on LinkedIn and check, there are two cases in which they're not present. One, they're too powerful, famous, and they don't do it. They don't have time. They don't care. They don't need a career. Or second, I don't know what the fuck they're doing. Sorry for that.
What? Love the...
how are you not on LinkedIn? I mean, come on.
Yeah, and I think the beauty of LinkedIn is that you don't need a huge audience, and that applies to everyone. You can have a big audience, but that's not the point, and that's not the objective. It's who are you getting in front of, and we can speak about that as well. But I've seen athletes even with small audiences doing really well, and you have the luck, if that's even the word, that people want to hear from you. You know, you have such a unique mindset, you have such unique stories that it's easy to stand out, less overcrowded than other platforms, and you can speak about the intersection of sports with the business world. You know, that translation into what happens in the locker rooms, what happens on the pitch. How can you connect that with the day-to-day things that most professionals like you and me can relate with? And I think athletes are really well positioned to do that.
And so I agree. I mean, I'm complementary to you. I'm an anti-growth hacker. I'm very good at not growing. Like my newsletter for whatever I go to conference, people stop me every 5 minutes saying, "Oh, I read your content." I have almost 5,000 subscribers. Okay, the newsletter LinkedIn tool is not possibly the best in the world. Sorry to say that, but
I agree.
in any case, I did everything organic. Um, but I check who's following the. So it's people that make sense. Like I have something else on Instagram where I have, I don't know, 15,000. Everybody that follows that because it's organic makes sense. So I don't get useless numbers. But I mean, I think you will be 5,000 like in 1 hour, or you're even more. So obviously
Not
there is
really.
a way. No, but okay, but I mean there is people like me that have maybe 50,000, which is fine. I mean, but I think it's important who they are. Obviously, if 50,000 people are good quality are better than 5,000 people of good
I
quality.
agree.
But sorry, this is your science, so I don't want to
No,
enter
but
that.
on that, and I think people don't realize that because we always like to see numbers and we want to get. But I think on LinkedIn you want to be uh, known well versus well known. I think that's a
Ah,
very important distinction. Um, you want to be, I know creators or experts that are known as the airport, expert, and you don't need more than 2,000 followers, but you're still the industry leader and you have industry influence. So
yeah.
I think that's the point of LinkedIn, and I like that. I'm like you. I'll rather have 10 quality conversations that 1,000 likes for the sake of having likes, and that's only the case on LinkedIn.
Yeah. And now, in terms of the master class on, I know there is a lot of. So I let you maybe tell the story, but I think because of the latest changes of the algorithm and the new stuff there is happening, there is a lot of how can I say
Chatting.
movement.
Yeah, a lot of a lot of
What's
noise.
going on? What's going on in 2026?
Well, I think first you nailed it before. People will complain about anything and everything. So that's the first. I try to separate the noise from the signal. Um, I remember when I was at LinkedIn, and something I don't miss. That's one of the few things I don't miss was waking up with 20 messages about people saying the algorithm hates me or my account got suspended with no evidence whatsoever. And I was like, no, dude, your content is just shit. I couldn't say that, but that's what I wanted to say.
But that you turn it into an opportunity now, basically, with what the
That,
new thing you're doing.
that's exactly the idea. But yeah, to be honest, there has been some changes, and every once in a while there are changes worth talking about. And I think, yeah, in the last year or so, there was a big algorithm change. I'm not a big fan of talking about the algorithm because
No, no.
my view on that is that nobody knows really what the F is happening, as you said. But there were some more official reports about the latest algorithm change. I think you did a really good newsletter covering that. But to recap, I think the biggest change in my eyes, the way I see it and the way I explained it in simple words, is that now LinkedIn is not only trying to uh, identify your content when it comes to distribution, but is also measuring who the person is at the same time, which is a small change, but with big implications. So, for example, and I think it's a smart move, LinkedIn is trying to understand if the person that writes the content has enough credibility and expertise to know what he or she is saying. To give you a more specific example, let's say you talk about me and you do the same post, exactly word for word. But if the post it's a bit more about the football side of things, it should perform better if it comes from you than if it comes from me. And I think that's the right approach. So it matters the credentials, it matters the earned experience, it matters all of those signals. So that's what LinkedIn is going after. And of course, there's a lot of nuance. Nothing works perfectly, nothing is black or white. But as a foundational approach, that's what's happening. And I think one of the things that this is leading to, which I think is not a negative one, is that maybe there's less reach overall, there's less numbers overall, but the engagement, it's not necessarily down, which means that LinkedIn is doing a better job at matching the right content with the right audiences. So that the matching is a bit more, it's working a bit better. And yeah, people like to complain about less reach. I'm getting less impressions, but my experience is I'm still getting the same amount of comments or maybe more comments. I'm getting better comments as well. I'm getting better quality of connections, better quality of conversations. And I think that's the whole point of LinkedIn, basically. Another big change that's happening on LinkedIn, which I think it's long overdue, and it's still early innings. Most of these new features and updates are always happening in the US first, but now they're giving finally a lot more love to creators. So there's been a few recent launches in favor of enabling creators to monetize better on LinkedIn, more native solutions, such as a marketplace, a creator marketplace, where LinkedIn is providing the tooling to match brands with creators. Before, you had to go to other platforms, to other third-party tools to happen. So that's a smart move on LinkedIn. There's also more native monetization tools around video. I still think it's only for specific voices and creators, but basically you can start monetizing your videos like you can do it on YouTube. There's just basically a lot more happening on that space. There was a collab feature as well announced at Cannes, which was, I think, a feature that many people were requesting. So just more weapons for brands and creators and influencers to connect. And at the end of the day, it's good that LinkedIn is leaning into this. They need creators. They understand that finally. And more than that, brands understand that creators, that experts are the ones driving the conversations, driving culture, driving the decision-making process. And they're all on LinkedIn, especially in B2B, but not only B2B, only B2C, which is an interesting industry as well. So yeah, exciting times and much more to build, much more tools to be improved. But I think directionally, things are heading the right way.
And I don't know if you remember, I had this idea of the creator studio.
Yes,
we copied from YouTube studio. And I also, I had a 30-minute call with Tomer at some point, the ex-CPO, which was surprised that they called me and say, oh, let's talk. But I wasn't able to convince him because very often when I use the platform, and I mean, am I a creator? I don't know, maybe a bit. When you do it, you want to do stuff in a way that is very productive. And in the end, this idea that every post is the same, like you can be a creator or you can be a professional that just want to share something, make it quite difficult for me to find my post, search my post, reorganize it, look at the analytics. I mean, I've been a product guy and team building products, not at this level, obviously. And I see that a lot of the stuff that are in LinkedIn is like, oh, we have to do this feature. So I think on one end, but that's not a discussion with you, there may be a refactoring of the platform, which could be a total nightmare to reorganize it. But I mean,
I think you're right.
I don't think, but it's tough. Maybe it's better not to do it in the end. On the other end, Creator Studio I also did a mock-up with one of the first code instances. So I imagine it was horrible to put everything like YouTube does, everything in one place for creators. So I have all my analytics. I can see all the comments in one place. But again, I think you have a budget for product development and then you have to decide where to spend it. So I'm not criticizing, but I think that's something that I would really love. And maybe it would bring more creator style approach to LinkedIn on the other side. More bottom up than the top creator. Obviously, they have teams that I don't think they care in the end. Listen, but I don't know what's your idea. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe you didn't convince Tomer specifically, but maybe you're the reason that everything is happening.
No, I don't think so. I'm super humble.
Very cool that you spoke to Tomer, and that's a cool reflection of LinkedIn, speaking with some valuable members.
Totally. I found it very...
speak directly with Tomer, but I know he was a great leader. So I really like that story. And I think you were early in understanding and in identifying that gap with creators. And I think that's where it's going. I don't know if the current marketplace it's similar to what you had in mind, but I think there's a lot of similarities to what you I remember telling me back in the day. So I think you were definitely early identifying that. But I agree. I think it's a trade-off with these platforms, especially LinkedIn is in a tricky position because it's many things at the same time. Um, it's a job platform. It's a content marketplace. It's an advertising platform.
Absolutely, a lot of. So I don't want to go into all the tools. The what is the name of the sales lead tool? Also, I use it a bit. That one too.
Navigator,
So
yeah.
yeah, exactly. So lead navigator. So there's a lot. Sales navigator. There's a lot there. So I understand touching that is like touching the airline software. So
But they are innovating. They are taking more risks, which I think they have to. And I don't think we're going to focus too much on this. But LinkedIn, and this is my own take, I think have been a bit lucky in the sense that they really haven't had much competition.
I know.
And of course, a lot of credit is to LinkedIn there, which in a way has been good and bad. But now I think they're acknowledging that things are moving fast, that they need to, and they're making changes to the analytics, they're making changes to creator features. There's a lot more to build, but I think it's happening. I'm feeling it. They're doing a lot of good stuff, and it's exciting. It's exciting to see where this will end.
But let's focus on what you're doing now. Shake content, shake.
Quickly on Shake Content, we are a LinkedIn agency. We specialize on LinkedIn, so LinkedIn is too much of my day. But basically, our premise is that LinkedIn is becoming the most important channel in business to promote your story, to showcase your products, your services. And I still think it's early, even though it doesn't feel like it. It's definitely more saturated than 2 years ago, but I still think there's a lot of potential on the platform to stand out. And a stat I always revert to, it might have changed, but I still think it's the amount of people creating content or sharing content is very low compared to other platforms. It's in the low single digits,
Yeah.
which is quite crazy because you would expect this to be much higher. So that's part of the reason why. And we're helping a lot of clients, which are founders, but also executives, also athletes. We have a few athletes in our portfolio. And ultimately, what we do is support them when it comes to their credibility, their position, their visibility. And we're really good at that. Having my LinkedIn experience, we have an amazing team as well. If any of your audience want to do more on LinkedIn, feel free to get in touch. We would love to support. And the other thing that we are really leaning into is the fact that people want to hear from people, right? And that's something that's been happening for a few years, but now it's more than ever. We do that through the lens of the face, not through the logo, meaning our work evolves around the person and not the company page. There's some overlap there, but people want to hear from the people in the background, the people doing the things, and not again the corporate stuff. So that's a big part of what we do, and I think most companies still don't understand that. Most companies are still prioritizing the company page, the branded socials, and not their founders, their employees, their managers, and that's where the potential is. And I think that's a trend that is just getting started as well.
Yeah, again, I don't want to always look like the one that did it before. But I pushed my old company, so the company I was in until 2023, to do it. The problem is, I think the strategy is there, how to do it, maybe not in detail, but the execution, I think, is the key aspect. So the good idea that we should have all the key people do, but how, I mean, the execution, I basically, I had an idea and I wasn't able to execute with all the resistance that you get from people, but that's not enough. I felt it as a failure on my side that I wasn't able to execute. Because it's not only that people are not lazy, they have other things to do. They don't. Want, some are shy. They don't want to risk, etc. But I didn't have a method, so I think that's where the real opportunity is, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it's still a big challenge. I think it's changing. One, because people and companies are understanding finally, because it was not obvious too long ago. Why should I be active on LinkedIn? What's the benefit? I already have a job. Why should I even be present? Why do I care? So I think that's changing. People understand the power of personal brands, the power of having an audience, um, and the power of, I think, de-risking your career, even for employees. Um, yes, you are promoting your company in a way, but you're also bulletproofing your career for the future, right? So I think it's much easier to educate the market on the incentives. But on the other hand, companies, and that's where we can come in, you really should provide a framework, a system to scale these, programs, to scale these efforts, because it's not easy. And we can have a whole episode about that. But yeah, there needs to be the proper structure to make this happen. And last thing I would say is not for everyone. Maybe I'm contradicting myself. I think, yes, anybody can do this, but that doesn't mean that everybody should do it. And it's identifying and working with the right voices that want to do
Mhm.
this, that want to dedicate and prioritize. It's not magic, it's not easy, it's not a shortcut. You need to play the long game. and and
Mhm.
and that means finding the right people internally to to align with you know what's needed.
And so one thing that now I remember as you were explaining it, I had pushback from the company. So they're basically saying, you're not doing for the company, you're doing for yourself. There's no value for us. A bit less dramatic, but more or less like that.
Yes,
What's your point of that? So do you see that then companies don't want to
I think
risk?
that's a wrong lens.
Absolutely. But they
Yes,
may
no,
still
and
think
I
you.
understand, especially, and I understand there's some specific industries where things are a bit more sensitive, for example, finance or regulation. But
Uh,
leaving that aside, what companies still don't understand is what I call brand equity, or
mhm,
uh, benefiting from association. Meaning, let's say you, Carlo, work at Microsoft, for example, and even if all of your content is not connected to Microsoft, or all of your content is not connected to the industry, but you are still building an audience, you're still creating quality content. Of course, it's it's
aligned
it's
somehow.
a given that it has to be positive and not, but that's kind of obvious. But people will recognize and understand, oh, Carlo works at Microsoft, so by even unconsciously, Microsoft is benefiting
I
from
agree.
your activity and your brand equity and you know your expertise. um, and that's just, I'm going the extreme that you're not even talking about Microsoft. I think most people complement their activity and content with different things, and that's the way I do it as well. But I think that's changing, and companies slowly are leaning into that. uh, as we spoke about employee generated programs, or working with different creators and influencers, they understand that the best people suited to speak about your company is your own employees. Not only is cheaper, but it's more impactful.
Mhm,
So I think that's changing, and employees and companies are finally acknowledging that. I remember 4 years ago on LinkedIn, companies were against having their employees
mm,
speak. And then it became a case of they were in the fence, they were ambivalent, they didn't really care. Now it's the opposite. Now they are
mhm.
pushing their employees, and now they're even hiring people based on their LinkedIn activity. So it's the full spectrum um, that I've seen.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Okay, so I may have I may did a spoiler before, but yesterday it was a big day for you, apart from the match,
Apart from the
because
match,
you launched something. You launched something new, right?
yes, I launched my LinkedIn newsletter. Finally, sounds a bit ironic because I have been telling people and I have been helping people launch their newsletters for years. And as with most things, I was, overthinking it. I was focusing on other priorities. And I woke up yesterday and I said, fuck it. I'm gonna just launch it. I'm not gonna give this too much thought. I think I made a cool, I think I did a good thing of my first edition, and we can share it on the links, was
Yeah.
not very deep or not very substantial. That doesn't mean it was not good, but it was more, I'm gonna launch it. I'm gonna force myself to start basically, and the next edition I'm gonna be obligated to start delivering on my promise instead of the other way around. So I went through a personal route. I just share my personal journey, why I launched it, and basically just force myself to now be accountable. It's called LinkedIn/Actually, which I thought it was a cool name, reference to Love Actually. No, but joke aside, I have a lot
we
of.
watch it once a year with the kids. So.
It's a classic. But yeah, I wanna just share my thoughts on what's happening, what are the implications of LinkedIn's new changes, new features, new updates, also potentially some humor, some memes. I'm a big fan of that as well. And just give an inside peek as to what my day-to-day looks like on the platform. And hopefully at some point, take this newsletter to another newsletter platform. And I might pick your brain because you have much more experience than me on that.
But if you want to be as successful, you follow me. If you
Legend. But yeah, I'm excited. It's still early days, but I think it's an important channel. And let's see where this takes me.
So maybe we can lobby together the LinkedIn product group to improve the newsletter tool.
A lot to improve, a lot of good things, but a lot of things that they are missing as well. No,
it's a part of a huge platform. So
it's a part of that.
someone that is just doing a newsletter tool.
Exactamente.
It's a different focus. Va bene, Dani. Thank you for the taking the time, and I understand that the morning after going out of the World Cup, even if I think the team in the end the team did well. I mean, obviously not comparing to my team.
Yeah, as I was gonna say,
was not even there.
I read the other day that Shakira has been in more World Cups than Italy in the last 20 years.
And I know. Thank you for being so good to remind me.
Just to finish on a good note.
Exactly. But you know what is weird also with the family and my son? I think I'm watching more World Cup games this edition than when Italy was playing. I don't know what's the logic, but
because you're not suffering, no pressure.
Could be. And then again, normally okay. My wife is half English, so we should be cheering for England. I'm not sure. I normally like the team that are playing great football. I try to detach.
That's a good
the country, the fans, and if I see like great or the one that really deserve it, like it was a bit sad to see Brazil with Japan the other day. Sorry,
I agree, Japan.
But it's football. I mean, it's football.
Yeah,
so.
It's been a World Cup, a good World Cup, surprisingly. Besides the bad times, but yeah, let's see.
And France was super strong yesterday. It was really fun to watch.
They're fun to watch. I'm still rooting for Argentina just because the little guy is the little guy. But Carlo, no, I'm a big fan of your work. I'm a big fan of how you think and how you come up so authentically and so genuine. I think that's missing in not only on LinkedIn but in the world. So thanks for having me. We need to have a beer at some point in Italy or here in London.
Absolutely. Grazie, Dani. Really appreciate it.
Gracias, amigo.
Ciao.
Ciao.